When we think about a detour is something that you use to either avoid or to go around a certain situation. If we might look at a detour in the physical sense, if we're driving to a destination, we leave from, let's say, Irvington, we're going to East Orange, and we put that address in our GPS. And let's say, for example, that sounds a lot better. If we put that address in our GPS, our navigation, we know what GPS is, our global positioning system. That will give us a route to get to East Orange. If we're going to 333 Central Avenue, that will give us a route to get to 333 Central Avenue, right, Brother Beckford? Okay, so there are various routes you could take to get to that same address. But what the GPS tends to do is give you the fastest route. The one with the toll. The GPS tends to give you the fastest route, even if it's the one with the toll that you have to pay. But it's the quickest route, according to what the GPS says the current traffic situations are. But if we should think about it, if we're heading in that direction, following the GPS, there may have been something started on that route. Let's say they just started working on the road. Now that route is blocked. The GPS was not updated. The GPS didn't know about that. So now when you get to that area of blockage, or you get to that area where, let's say, there's an accident, whatever the obstruction is, you find yourself having to take a detour. Now, what you will have to do in the physical sense with that GPS, you would have to either follow the direction of the arrow that says, turn this way, don't go straight. And then the GPS will now try to find a way from where you are to get to that same destination. So even though you're taking a detour, something is a blockage or a deterrent in that path that you're on to get to that destination. The GPS will still try to get you to where you're trying to go. What tends to happen with a detour, detours tend to lengthen the journey. Detours always tend to lengthen the journey. So if we know we're supposed to take 15 minutes to get to that destination, now when you're on the detour, you might add an extra 10 minutes. And we'll get upset that we now have to take another extra 10, 15 minutes. That's more time, more gas, and we're potentially going to be late for that destination if we have a set appointment time to be there. But what we have to understand with a detour, if we look at it, not in a sense of getting upset, but just keeping in our minds that we're still going to get to that destination. The detour that you're now on now becomes the fastest route right now. Because if we're going on a certain journey and we should, let's say, ignore all the signs and continue on that path that we were instructed to take a detour from, we will end up, let's say, 2 minutes from the destination, but 2 minutes from the destination, that's where the blockage is. You just drove at 10, 15, 20 minutes heading down that path that you were instructed to take a detour from. Now you end up having to double back. Now your journey has more than doubled because you thought the detour was going to be longer, which the detour ends up being the fastest route at that time. The detour becomes the fastest route at the time of that occurrence. So we should look at a detour not in a sense that it's going to delay us or it's going to set us back, but always remember that the detours, the signs that are given, whether in the physical or in the spiritual, but even by God, that detour always ends up being the fastest route presently. It always ends up being the fastest route right now. Because if you continue down that path, you're going to have to turn back anyways. You're going to have to turn back anyways, and then you're going to be upset with yourself now because now you have no one else to blame. So we should look at a detour not only as a deterrent or something that's going to set us back, but always have that mindset to look at detours in that light. It is the fastest route right now. It's not the fastest route typically on a good day, but it's the fastest route right now. There's a reason why you're being detoured from going down that path. You might not know what's going on down there, because if you're working, sometimes if you see them working on the highway, you might see them have cones set up for 4 or 5 miles, and you can't see where the work is taking place. 4 or 5 miles worth of cones, and you're like, why do you have the cones? You don't see any work going on. But not because you can't see what the obstruction is, you're being advised to take another route. Not because you can see the obstruction 5 miles ahead. God says, take another route. Take another route. But you're saying, but God, this is where I always go. This is how we always do it. God says, take another route. So that's how we look at a detour. And if we should look at, I recently got into logistics. That's so if we should look at it from a logistical standpoint, we should be so focused on the destination. Be so focused on the destination where we're trying to get to. That is of utmost importance, where we're trying to get to that destination. The detour is not important. The obstructions are not important. The destination is what is of paramount importance. Because when we think of getting to the destination, when we keep that level of importance on the destination, it doesn't matter what the detour is. It doesn't matter what the obstruction is. It doesn't matter what happens on the path of getting, let's say, this freight or this delivery from point A to point B. The point of the matter is it has to get to the destination some way or the other, because the destination is that important. It has to get there somewhere or the other. If you're delivering something and let's say you get a flat tire on the highway, that doesn't stop you from fulfilling the commitment of delivering that freight. It has to get there. And if it doesn't get there, you're going to be penalized. It has to get there. Because the destination is important. Getting to the destination is important. No matter the obstacles, the tests, the trials, the only way that freight will be allowed to not get to that destination is if that freight dies. Let's say that truck goes up in smoke, everything is all burnt. You can't deliver ashes because now you're not delivering what you left with. So if you're delivering something on a truck or in a pickup, whatever it is, and let's say the engine on that truck goes out, now this is something very catastrophic happening. Your engine blow. How can you move without your engine? Your engine just went up in smoke. Car won't start, truck won't start, pickup won't start, nothing won't start. But the thing is, the freight is still on that truck. It has to get to the destination, comes what may. Whether the engine blew up or not, it has to get to that destination. Now what typically happens is, I don't know if you've ever seen it on the highway, they will have a scenario where if that truck can't move, they either tow it, or the company sends another truck to transfer that freight. But it has to get to the destination. By any means necessary, a blown engine can't stop that freight from getting to the destination. A flat tire cannot stop that freight from getting to the destination. If the driver is sick, it cannot stop that freight. They will just transfer that freight to another truck. That is how important getting to the destination is. That is how important getting to the destination is. So if we assimilate that same concept, how logistics work, and we assimilate that to our very lives, or very spiritual lives, getting to a certain destination spiritually or in God. Comes what may, we have to get to that destination. If we have a blown engine, that is something that the truck can't even move without, you still have to get to that destination. Still have to get to that destination. It doesn't matter how you feel, if you are sick, if you are tired. The only way you won't have to get to that destination is if you die. That's the only way you won't have to get to that destination is if you die. That's the only way. There's not one more excuse for that, for it not getting to where it needs to be. Only one is death. That's it. No more, no feeling, no situations that may arise, whether it be personal, financial, spiritual, whatever it is, family matters, whatever it is. No situation exempts that freight that's on the back of that truck from getting to that warehouse. Nothing. And I learned that when from being in logistics. It is so important. They will penalize you so bad if it doesn't arrive at the destination and if it doesn't arrive on time. If it's late, you have to pay. If it's late, you have to pay. That's how important it is. So it's very important for us to think about these things and assimilate that to our physical or our spiritual lives. When we look at Elisha and Elijah, there were many things that could stop Elisha from getting to the destination of that double portion of Elijah's anointing. Along the way, he had a lot of voices in his ear. A lot of voices in his ear that could detour him from following this man and getting that double portion. He was hearing voices from the left, voices from the right, voices from prophets, men of God, people in the church telling him that his master is going to leave him because he was a minister unto Elijah. And he could have listened. What if he had listened? He wouldn't have gotten to his destiny, his destination. He wouldn't have gotten there. Joseph had a dream, I think, at the age of 17. And that dream took almost, 15 years before he ended up in the king's palace. 15 years. And he had that dream when I think he was 17 years old. He went through the pit, could have detoured him, said, this dream was fake. Maybe I had too much to eat before I went to bed. He went to prison. Now he could have said, definitely this dream was fake. No way this dream could have been true or from God. And I ended up in the prison. I ended up in the pit. But finally, when he ended up in the palace of the king, that's when that dream came to fruition. That's when he ended up in that destination, because he was not detoured from the destination by the detours. He wasn't detoured by the detours from his destination. He still ended up where he needed to be. So we have to keep those things in our mind, that whatever the destination is for us personally, whatever the destination is for us as a conglomerate, we must hold to that destination, comes what may. If the lights aren't on, we still have to get to the destination. No matter what the situation is, we still have to get to the destination. If you look at John 2:19, it says, Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Matthew 17:22 says, and while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said unto them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed in the hands of men. This is Jesus speaking to the disciples. Betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. and they were exceeding sorry. Now, the thing with this scripture is, this was Jesus explaining what his destiny is, what his destination is. I know this might not be something that everyone's going to agree with. It might, it might mess with some people a bit. But for me, the cross is important. But for me, the cross is not as important for my Christian walk. The cross is not as important to me for my Christian walk. That's why there's no need to have, I don't think you need to have, in a church you have a cross symbolizing that this is a church, or you have a big cross in the middle of the church. Because what you're celebrating is just the crucifixion. And Pastor even just mentioned it. It's like every Sunday you would come, you look at that cross and you feel so sad. You feel so sad that Jesus is dead. You feel so sad every Sunday you look on that cross. Oh, my God is dead. So why are you in church if your God is dead? So the cross is not as important to me as it is to a lot of people or a lot of Christians. Because the Bible said, for God so loved the world that he sent his only son, begotten son, to die for our sins so we may have eternal life. But if you are going to New York City, let's say for the first time you're going to visit the city at night. Like one night I took the boys to Times Square just for them to see the lights and whatever at nighttime, because we drove through there in the day, but they've never seen it at night. So if you're going to New York City as a destination to go see something, to go look at the city, to go, and the funny thing is, I find it so weird. A lot of people go to Times Square just to go stand up and sit down. I'm driving through Times Square, and I said to my wife, you see people just standing, some just sitting down, like what is it about this place? People just come here to sit. They just come to sit and look, come to stand around and look. I'm like, why? And to get from this step to that door is 30 minutes driving. To get from here to the back of the church takes me 30 minutes. 30 minutes, if not more. But why am I saying this? If you go to visit Times Square, you go over George Washington Bridge, you pay that toll. The experience that you're going to be talking about, you're not going to be telling anybody about, oh, I enjoyed paying that toll. You say how beautiful that toll booth was, man. You're not celebrating the toll booth. You're celebrating Times Square, the destination. When Jesus went to that cross, all Jesus did was pay that toll. He paid the toll so we could come out on the other side. That's all Christ did when he went to the cross. So I'm not diminishing the importance of the cross, but the importance that it has for others, it doesn't have that for me, because my importance lies in the resurrection. My importance lies in the day of Pentecost. The cross was just paying that toll at Holland Tunnel, that $13 or $15. That's what the cross was. He paid the toll for us so we could all come through that toll booth on the other side. So that's the importance of the cross as for me, because Jesus knew what the destination was. We speak or we sing a lot about, just to get to that cross. He wasn't trying to get to the cross. He was just trying to hasten that death so he could rise again. He wasn't in a hurry to get to the cross. He was in a hurry to be resurrected. The cross is not the paramount thing here. That's not the destination. It was just a part of the journey. The destination was resurrection. The destination was Pentecost. The destination was so the Spirit could go back to his Father. The destination wasn't Calvary. The destination wasn't Calvary. He was just paying a toll for all of us. Paying that toll for all of us. Because in the journey of being, let's say, even molded by God, when we would refer to God as the potter, and we are the clay because he formed us from the dust of the earth. When you look at clay, they said clay is, the particulate of clay is 0.0016 of an inch. That's how tiny it is. And then with clay, when you're forming clay into anything, you have to add water to it, and then it has to become of a certain consistency. Now, for the potter to form anything out of that clay, the clay has to be smooth. He has to smooth that clay out. And while that clay is on the potter's wheel, the thing was when that clay is on the potter's wheel, and they said when you're forming the clay, you have to apply pressure. You have to apply a lot of pressure to that clay. And it is said that even when the clay is ready to be formed, they said when the clay is ready to be formed, you will know. Because when you have your hand on that clay, you said you know when the clay is ready to be formed is when the clay stops fighting you. You will know when the clay stops fighting you. That's when it's ready to be formed. So if we look at our lives with God, if he's trying to mold us, sometimes the process takes longer because we're fighting the potter. It takes longer when you're fighting the potter. The very clay, you can tell. The potter says you will know when it's ready to be formed. When it stops fighting you, you know when it's ready to be formed. It's ready to become what God wants it to be. It's ready to become its destiny, whether that's a cup or a pot or a vase. When it stops fighting and releases itself in the hands of that potter, now I can make anything out of you. Anything out of you. And clay is such of an element where it can be reused even if you damage it. For example, if you're making a pot, you add too much water. Now it becomes too fluid. The consistency is not right. The potter doesn't throw that clay away. So even if we should look at even our physical or spiritual lives, if we're growing in God and you make a mistake, you fall down, you make a blunder, whatever it is, the potter knows not to throw that clay away. The potter knows not to throw that clay away, even though it looks like it can't come to anything. The potter knows not to throw that clay away. So the important thing is us as people of God and even churchgoers, we should also know not to throw that clay away. We can throw something away that God does not discard. The potter knows how to get that clay back into something else. But we can't be the ones to discard that clay. What the potter does, if it's too watery or if it's too loose in consistency, the potter adds more water to it. That's all he does, adds more water to it. He bakes it or he puts it back in the sun, puts it back in the heat, and that hardens the compound. And then he crushes it again. And then he forms something new from it. The same clay that someone else would have thrown away becomes a vase in somebody's house. The same clay. So a lot of people might be heading to their destinations and they might hit a pothole. They might lose a tire. They might break a rim, blow a shock or something. And we might think, listen, that person cannot come back to anything. We think that person, the other clays, the other pots in the house might think that piece of clay can't be one of us. But it's a process to that person's destination. The potter will know how to get this mess to turn into something that can be used. The potter will know how to get it into something that can be used. So we can't We can't be the ones to discard any clay, even if it looks like it's messed up. We can't be the ones to discard it. Because the potter knows. The potter knows. Remember, we are also pots. We can't be taking the job of the potter. We can't take the job of the potter. Someone called people that are like, they call them Jesus secretaries. They call them Jesus secretaries. We can't take the job of the potter. Everyone has to get to their destination. Give that clay time and process to become a pot also. Because we're all in the potter's house. We're all in the potter's house. A lot of people get to their destination taking different routes. It might take longer for some. Because if you're driving anywhere, someone might get there first and someone will get there last. Sometimes because the route they take, their car might be faster. You know what I mean? So, I know a lot of people won't get there before me if it's in the physical, right? If we're just driving, a lot of people won't get there. Maybe Pastor would, maybe Brother Yali, but I don't know who else would. Brother Otis. But, right? Brother Otis, but we have to think about that in that sense where people get to their destination in different times. You might already be a pot formed by God, but you can't look at another pot that keeps getting messed up in the potter's hand, and you're wondering why the potter don't just throw that in the garbage. The potter knows how to fix the clay. You might not, but the potter knows how to fix the clay. Allow the potter to fix the clay so we can all get to that destination that we're aspiring to. Because we all should be going to the same destination. So we can't be kicking people off the bus. We can't be kicking people off the bus. It's like the school bus come around and picking up the students and the line, everybody's going on the bus. And then you see someone coming on the bus and coming down the row. You say, what are you doing on the bus? You ask the person, what are you doing on the bus? As a matter of fact, as soon as, let's say, if you have a space on the seat next to you, you see the person coming, you sit at the end. You're telling them that, listen, I don't want you to sit beside me. Even though the bus is going to the same place. The bus is going to the same destination. And I can sit beside you in the same bus. I can't sit next to you in the same bus. And we're supposed to be going to the same place with the same driver. And I can sit next to you in that bus. In the journey to our destination, allow the potter to handle the clay. Allow the potter to handle the clay. The only thing you have to do is do not get distracted by anything while you're on your journey to that destination. Because while we might be trying to fix another pot or fix the clay, we end up running over on the soft shoulder and you hear that sound, the rumble strip on the side of the highway making all type of noise. And you're wondering, when did I run off the highway? You didn't even know when you run off the highway. Because you weren't watching the road in front of you. You weren't watching the road in front of you. We're all going to the same destination. But we must always remember not to let the detour change the destination. In 2 Timothy 4, 7 to 8, Paul said, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness. Where? At the destination. A crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, the potter, remember that same potter with the clay that knows how to handle the clay, which the Lord, the potter, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love disappearing. Now, Paul is showing you here where he's like right at that point, just waiting for the bus to come pick him up to go to his destination. He's in the lobby, just waiting to enter in, waiting for the master to come and say, Paul, come. That's the point Paul was at when he was saying this. Even all the toils that Paul went through, Paul was beaten. Paul was cursed out. Paul was killed, like borderline killed. They thought he was dead. And then he just got back up. After all the things that Paul went through, nothing derailed him. Nothing threw him off that course, because Paul understood the job. He understood that he has to get to this destination. He has to get to where he has to go. Even if they try to kill me, again, he has to get to where he has to go. He said, listen, nothing shall separate me, neither height nor depth, nor things to come. Nothing can separate him from getting to that checker flag. It's like you're in a race, and you're racing to get to that checker flag. It's like when we went to Supercharged, right? And we were racing, and we're just racing to get to that checker flag. That's a destination. I spun out a couple times on that track, but I could have said, listen, this thing is not worth. Let me just give it up right here. But no, I understood the assignment. I understood the assignment. I have to get to that finish line. No matter how many times I spin out and I might get derailed here, derailed there, but remember the destination. You might have to pay some tolls here. The tolls might be expensive. The tolls might be so expensive that even after you pay the toll, what happens is when you pay something that you think is an exorbitantly high price, while you're still on that journey, your mind is just on that money you just spent. On the toll, you're like, man, I just spent $40 for toll. And you start rethinking if you should have been going here. You start rethinking, man, did I really need to come here, man? I didn't have to come here. No. After the price you had to pay, you start rethinking continuing on the journey. You start rethinking continuing on the journey. But the thing is, you already paid it. So why turn back now? It would just be a waste of money. You already paid that $45 or $50 toll 3-4 times. You already had to fill your tank 5-6 times, and the gas is expensive. But if you turn back, it's going to cost you more. It's going to cost you more if you turn back. And you're going to end up back where you started, achieving nothing. Achieving nothing. So it only makes sense to keep going. It only makes sense to keep going. Abraham had to do it. Just go. God spoke to a lot of men in scriptures. Just go. Just get up, go. They had to fight wars. They had to fight battles. They had to lose people. People died all around them. Just go. Get to that place of rest. It says there's a rest for the people of God. Get to that place of rest. These are my few words. God bless you.